Hello! For today's adventure, we are headed to the White Mountains of New Hampshire. We are going to go up the Mount Washington Auto Road and the Concomancas Highway. Now, the one thing about the area of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine is, while there is some charging, there's very little DC fast charging infrastructure. So it'll be interesting to see how we go about getting our charges, making sure we have enough to go up Mount Washington, and just how we can get around there with the lack of DC fast charging.
Welcome back to eHermes, your electric adventure travel channel. Please remember to subscribe, hit that like button, and hit the bell button to be notified of our upcoming content.
Even though we left with a full charge, the truck wants me to stop outside Buffalo, then again in Rochester, then again in Albany. We're actually going to be stopping for the night in Albany. We got a little later start today. So I want to skip that first charger. I happen to know that on the New York State Thruway at the first service plaza, there's a DC fast charger. So we're going to stop there for just a few minutes. That will allow us to skip Buffalo, go right to Rochester, and then our hotel in Albany should have a destination charger, so we won't even have to charge very long there. So we'll have a quick charge on the service plaza and then partial charge in Rochester. We charged for about 40 minutes at the service plaza to get us enough to skip Rochester and get to Syracuse. I may have said it backwards previously. Not a great charging station, 50 kW, not that bad of a speed. Couldn't read the screen there. The only way I could get it to work was through the app, which was fine. The thing about that service plaza, it's actually in the median between the two different directions of travel of the highway. So it's a pretty good walk to go to the bathroom. So you're going to spend 10-15 minutes there anyhow. So I did that, wrote an email, took a phone call, went to the bathroom again just to be sure, and then we're back on the road, like I say, in about 40 minutes. Next stop will be Syracuse. We will have dinner, and then we'll head to Albany for our hotel. It's all for tonight at the Syracuse, New York DC fast charger. This is the Doubletree Inn & Suites by Hilton in Utica, New York. We chose this hotel specifically because A, they have really good chocolate chip cookies, but B, it had car chargers. But when we got here, there was a moral dilemma. The only J1772 charger was already taken by someone from the New York Power Authority who doesn't seem to be charging. It's plugged in, has power, but doesn't say charging. But there were two Tesla destination chargers available. We have an adapter that allows us to use these. But is it right to use a non-Tesla vehicle in a Tesla destination charger location? I answered the moral dilemma because there were two, both available. If there were only one, I'm not sure I would have, but I decided to go ahead and use the one. There's no sense in having two of them open. It's already after 9 o'clock, so I doubt that there's anybody else coming in, and I really doubt there's two more people coming in with Teslas. So that's what we did. We went ahead and used it. But it does beg an interesting question. Let us know in the comments below if you think non-Tesla drivers should use Tesla destination chargers. Second moral question of the night. Is it not as bad or worse for an electric vehicle driver to block an electric vehicle charger when they're fully charged than it is for an ICE vehicle to block them? I say it's worse because the electric vehicle driver should know better. Let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is the lobby of the Doubletree by Hilton in Utica, New York, where we stayed last night. We are 98% charged and ready to hit the road. We didn't really need to stop yet, but this is the Adirondack Welcome Center rest area, and it's got chargers. It's 50 to 150, so it's pretty good. So we're gonna get up to 80% here and then head out again. I don't necessarily record every state line we cross anymore, especially those near us like Pennsylvania, even New York, West Virginia, and Michigan. But here we are entering the state of Vermont. Here we are for our first real planned charging stop for the day, and our only charging stop for the day at Marty's first stop in Danville, Vermont. It is an EVgo Green Mountain Power. There's a sticker on there, I'm not sure if you can read in the rain, it says 100% renewable energy. We've been here for about a half hour because we also went inside and did our shopping. So now we're heading for a campground, which we believe has a 50 amp outlet, but we're not entirely certain. So we've got enough charge that if we need to, we can get back here or to another fast charger. This is a 50 kilowatt charger. Not great, but they're more prevalent in the more outlying areas, and they get the job done. So here we are at our home for the next few days, the Crawford Notch Campground. If you remember earlier, I said something about there's some confusion about whether we had power or not, or how much power we have. I thought their website said there was 50 amps, but when I called them, they seemed less certain. And in fact, there is not. There is 30 amps, 120 volts. So, because Ford doesn't have an adapter for that, I have my Tesla mobile connector with my 30 amp, TT 30 amp adapter. And the same adapter that I used to go from Tesla to J1772 at the truck. And we will charge a little bit while we're here, but we're only gonna get maybe, I don't know, a couple miles an hour, if that. We got here at 38% at about 6 o'clock. We'll see what we have in the morning. I'm guessing, if I'm lucky, we'll have 50%.
So even though the campsite only had that 30 amp, 120 volt outlet, all was not lost, because we found the Appalachian Mountain Club Highland Lodge just up the road, where they have J1772 chargers. They suggest a $5 donation. We actually give them 20 because we're happy to have them here, and we're gonna take quite a bit of electricity. Between that and the campsite, and the fact that I was waylaid by a virus and down on my back for 3 or 4 days, we will have 100% charge when we go to do the Mount Washington Auto Road. We had to drive a little bit further than we expected for dinner last night, and with using the Pro Power on board to power the campsite, we were only able to recover up to 82% charge, 224, I think it'll be 225 miles before we leave, which is more than enough for what we have planned today. We're going to head down to Mount Washington. It is only about 8 miles to the summit, but it's pretty steep. I think it goes up about 6,000 feet in 8 miles. I could be wrong. I'll check that. I'll edit that. Look for a note on the screen for the right amount. We're starting with 201 miles of range, 73%. We'll see what we do watt hours, or I'm sorry, we'll see what we do miles per kilowatt hour going up, and then how much we gain coming back down. On certain days of the year, people bicycle up this, they race up it, they run up it, they snowshoe up it, they ski up it. All kinds of ways to be miserable getting into the top. This is by far the most enjoyable. We're a mile and a half up, we're averaging 0.5 miles per kilowatt hour. At 6 miles, we've used 10% of our battery capacity, still averaging 1/2 mile per kilowatt hour. We've used 45 miles of range to go 6 miles. Okay, we're at the top. 61% range, we used 12% to go 8 miles roughly. We used 56 miles of range to go 8 miles, and we averaged 0.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Now I gotta go park in the right spot. Here's the other way to get to the top. The Cog Railroad. Note the cogs. Actually, that's the track, the cogs on the engine. So we know on the way up here we used 56 miles of range and 12% of the battery capacity. We averaged 0.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Let's see how we do going back down. It'll also be interesting to see how much I have to use the brakes, or if the regenerative braking will be sufficient to hold us back on the steep decline. Alright, at the halfway point we have gained 11 miles of range. We've gained 3% of battery capacity, and we're averaging 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Not used the brake yet either. We are back down with 168 miles of range, 68% battery. We're averaged 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour coming down, so 5.2. So we averaged 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour going up and down, which is actually pretty darn good, which is why we only lost 4% going roughly 16 miles. That's about what I would expect. 5%? 5%, Mrs. E. Hermie says. From 68 to 73, we lost 5% going 16 miles. That's about 1% per every 3 miles, which is just about what you'd expect. So that's pretty good. And we never touched the brakes. And as you can see, the battery temperature nor the motor temperature ever came off the even mark. So it was a very successful trip. Nothing to it for the Ford F-150 Lightning. Across the street from the auto road itself is the museum and the place you park if you're going to have them drive your vehicle up. And they do have charging stations there, one behind this building, and where we're charging over there behind the Red Barn Museum. You can't do New Hampshire and not go over a covered bridge. It occurred to me as we went through the bridge that we may weigh, in fact, weigh more than 3 tons.
We also did the Concomongus Highway between Conway, New Hampshire and North Woodstock, New Hampshire. It goes from about 600 feet to 2,800 feet, over 15 miles up and 15 miles back. So it was not nearly as impressive or nearly as taxing on the Lightning. Not that the Mount Washington Auto Road was taxing, but of the two, it was by far more of a challenge.
Up and over the Concomongus Highway, we averaged 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which that, along with what we saw in Mount Washington, just goes to show that elevation change, as long as you go back down the same amount you go up, has very little impact on range, much less than on an internal combustion engine, because you do recapture the energy with regenerative braking. I did not use the brake the entire way down Mount Washington, nor down the west side of the Concomongus Highway. Speed and related wind resistance have a much greater impact on range, but terrain, as long as it evens out, really does not.
We could not be that close and not go to the Franconia Notch Parkway. It is one of only 2 spots in the entire United States on an interstate highway system that is designed to be a single lane in each direction and less than 55 miles an hour maximum speed. It's a little hard to tell in today's video because it's under construction, but that's its permanent condition. 1 lane in each direction, even though it is an interstate highway. One of the highlights of the parkway used to be the Old Man of the Mountain, a rock formation towering over the lake we just went by on our left. This formation is the state's symbol. In fact, it is even the background of their highway signs for route numbers. Unfortunately, a few years after we took our children to see it, Mother Nature and time did its deed and it fell off the mountain, so it's no longer there. Even when we were there, it was held on by cables and anchors and some other things. But time marches on and erosion marched on, and it is completely gone now. In its place, they talked about trying to rebuild it, put it back, build a false one. I think they came up with a pretty good idea, though. They built a little plaza where you used to stand and look at it, and it has a series of posts, and if you stand in the right places based on your height and sight down the post, you actually see what the old man of the mountain used to look like, and it is pretty realistic.
We got to hang out with our good friends Bob and Sue and Kirk and Gail. We got fully charged at their house, and now we are ready for our ride home. Looks like we have 3 charging stops. Might skinny that down to 2, but looks like we have 3 charging stops, and it's about a 13-hour drive. Not sure if we're going to do it in 1 day or 2. We'll have to wait and see.
Mrs. E. Hermes says this notice is not cool, I believe were her exact words. Says we will not make it to the charger, but we will. We have 24 miles of range and the charger's only 17 miles away, so we have plenty of extra. So you'll note that the available power has been reduced to 90%. That's because when the battery is this low, you don't really want to mash it and try to draw all kinds of power off of it when it's in this low a state of charge. So they do that to protect the battery. We're easily going to make it. We're going to have 10 miles of buffer. We have 7% battery left, and we only have 8 miles to go. So no problem, but I just wanted to explain that that's why they reduced the available power, so that you don't damage the battery by drawing too much from it when it's this low.
Of course, we easily made it at the charging station with about 5% range left. We had 2 more charging stops on the way home, both uneventful. We got to each of them with about 20% battery capacity, charged for a few minutes, and we're back on the road. And we made it home in 1 long day from New Hampshire. We hope you enjoyed this video of our trip to New Hampshire and the Lightning's assault on the Mount Washington Auto Road. If you did, please hit that like button. Please remember to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified of our upcoming content. Thank you!